All right, Ben Wiedemann for us there in Lebanon. Thanks so much. And let's get some perspective now from Miri. She's a senior fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism at Reichman University in Israel. She's also a colonel in the reserves with the IDF. Miri, thanks so much for being here with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
I just first want to zoom out for a second and get your thoughts as someone who studies this and is well versed in all of this on where things stand today and where we might be headed.
At the moment, when I look at the big picture, I'm seeing the Islamic regime of Iran having the rhetoric of saying that they're attacking, but for the first time in a very long time, they are in defense. And from my perspective, that's a good thing, not for Israel, but for the world. The Islamic regime of Iran, not just overtly attacking Israel in the way that they did yesterday, but they are the ones that support, that give the ideology, that are the ones that give the training, and especially the ones that give all of the weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon, to the different Shiite proxies, both in Syria and Iraq, and to the Houthis in Yemen. And from that perspective, the action that Iran took yesterday, it's not just bluster. I was in the safe room yesterday. That was a hectic time here inside Israel. But what they are doing right now is they're trying to show that they're still in the game. I am happy, I have to say this, when Iran feels that they need to be in defense. They cannot be the safe haven and the ideology for these terror entities and themselves calling for the annihilation of the state of Israel.
And kind of piggybacking off of your thoughts about them being on their back foot, being on the defense right now. I spoke with the former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett over the weekend, and he was really making the case to the people of Lebanon, to the people of Iran, to kind of stand up and essentially, in his words, take their government back, take their country back. It was interesting messaging to hear from him. Do you think that we're going to continue to see Israel kind of pushing, or Israeli government trying to push something like that to really try to knock down this Iranian regime?
So I'll say it in two different ways. One, Prime Minister Netanyahu chose yesterday, before all of these events, to address the Iranian people. After the events, he directly threatened the Iranian regime. But I'm saying that he, too, the Prime Minister in Israel right now, addressed the Iranian people. I'm very wary, both as a commentator, as a colonel, as an Israeli, about foreigners intervening in any kind of other country. I really do think that the Iranian Persian people deserve a different regime than the Islamic regime of Iran. And that I say as somebody who looks at the regime and what it does to people, to women, to everything. Having said that, I don't know that we're the ones that have to make that change. And I don't know that the Islamic regime, in that sense, I mean, they hear these voices, they're a harsh dictatorship, and it's very tricky. The only time that Israel directly intervened and tried to do that kind of regime change that we call it was what Ben Wiedemann from before would remember very personally, 1982, when Israel entered into Lebanon. And at that time, part of that campaign was also with an element of regime change. That didn't end very well. And I really do hope that we wouldn't take steps like that. I'd love to see the Iranian people take those steps, but that's up to them.
And so now we look to Israel again to see what this retaliation may look like. We know that they're coordinating with the U.S. government. What do you think is, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but just knowing what you know, what do you think it could look like and what's at stake here?
I think there are two main possibilities, because I do think that Israel will respond. One is that you do something open and overt. That's something similar to what Israel did earlier this week against the port in Yemen. The Houthis in Yemen have been firing against Israel. Israel attacked the main port that they have as their stronghold. You can do something similar in Iran. You could do it on the Persian Gulf, on different types of what you would call both economic income for that Islamic regime, the oil rigs or ports. That would be overt and open. You can also do something that I heard before being mentioned, which is you go to sites where the Islamic regime, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, they're going to know that you attacked. You attack, but you do it covertly. And then in its own way, they know you did it, but they don't have to talk about it. You know you did it. You don't have to talk about it. That's a different way of addressing it. Hard for me to say right now which path would go. As I said, I do think that we will respond, just in the sense that I live in the Middle East. And the Islamic regime of Iran is hiding behind its proxies, and it's building on the idea that the world is now going to stop everybody from attacking Iran. They can't continue to get away with this. They can't continue to be the safe haven and the ideology for these terror entities around the world.
And I know you also specialize in intelligence and military intelligence, and I do want to ask you before we go just about the intelligence that was needed to carry out these various Israeli operations over the last couple of weeks, going all the way back to the pagers and the walkie-talkies to where we are now, is pretty extraordinary. What does that sort of, the fact that the Israelis have this intelligence, have been able to infiltrate these various groups, what does that tell you, and what might it mean going forward?
So two things. One, it does not erase the colossal failure of October 7th of those exact same intelligence communities. What it does show to a certain degree is where we were looking, and I put myself into that as well. Hezbollah, the Islamic regime of Iran, the Al-Quds force, that northern arena, what we're in right now, both in the ground campaign, in that air superiority, that's where Israel was focused, the IDF and all of the security arena, the intelligence community, pretty much in the last 2 decades, from the 2006 war, even before it and after. And it goes to show that when you're focused, when you look at an arena, when you understand the players, you can both infiltrate and impact in a very effective way. I'm very proud of the things that were done, but I don't want to be like in that hubris. I'm very wary of us taking it too far. Hezbollah still has a lot of capabilities. They built themselves for the long term. They were fighting in Syria for many years. They are hardened terror militants. So yes, we've done a lot. We've shown a lot of capabilities. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that we've erased Hezbollah, certainly not their ideology. And you still have behind them that Islamic regime of Iran, the supporter, the backer, the ideology.
All right, Miri Eisen coming to us from Tel Aviv. Thanks again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.